Welcome everyone to the August 31st, 2023 Helm Developer Call. All right, and with this, we have no announcements. Does anybody have any announcements that we don't have on here yet?
I guess we could save it, but I was gonna ask about KubeCon stuff. But you know, Ian has a very important topic.
Yeah.
It's actually I'm actually just bringing up someone else's PR. So if you can bring up any KubeCon stuff you want first, we can get to that.
I saw the schedule, and Matt, am I missing? It showed just you. Is that a different talk, or is that the talk?
No, I've got to make a couple tweaks. It's that the other people who said, "Hey, I'm going to be on the talk," I added them, but they had to accept, and nobody ever accepted anything. So that is one of those things that I need to bring up and see about getting them added back to the talk. I did not see the schedule came out without them added. It's that nobody ever accepted the thing that got sent to them to say, "Hey, I'm joining the talk."
It kind of gets buried, like when you're sent that.
It does, and I didn't even notice it right away in order to go chase people down. But yes, anybody who was supposed to be on the talk failed to accept that they were added to the talk, because you can't just add random people to your talk without them accepting it. And so that's what happened. There's a short time period where people can still be added to the talk, and I'm going to go reach out. I'll try and do that today to get folks added to that. But
I was distracted when Crane was asking the question, but did I miss something? I thought I was meant to be.
Yes, so you were added to the talk, but you did not accept the fact that I added you to the talk. So you are not actually added to the talk.
Did you try that with me as well, or did I not accept? Or
you were an after the fact, so it was locked until they just gave me the directions on adding somebody, like yesterday. So only now can I actually add anybody, because what they do is, while they're holding on to it before they publish the schedule, it's all locked. You can't add or change it, and then they give you the details after they announce it. So only like yesterday did I get the deal. Maybe it was the day before that I actually got the details to modify the speakers to go chase any of this down on my part. But yes, you do need to accept it once it comes through.
Yeah, working on the fluid thing. One development need that I would have.
George, I'm hearing somebody in your background.
But yeah, so what email account it comes from might be easier to find. Okay.
I would like to.
I found a join keeping Helm reliable and usable as a speaker. Invite.
It's kind of a negotiation.
Which I so that's in the inbox.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
I know how that can be. Okay. So I will chase that down today to see about getting folks added to that and get that sorted out.
Did we ever make it on the graduated projects announcements?
I don't know.
If none of us know, then probably not. It's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. That's all.
Okay. So that's where we're at. Any other questions about it?
Nope. Just I'll make sure. Yeah, I'll have to make sure my email address is right with KubeCon. So I'll work on that right away to make sure I do actually get the notification. So.
And if you haven't already sent me, I think I have it. Send me your email address, like in Slack, and then make sure your account in the system they use for all that stuff has the same email address listed. That way they can link the two when they go to do the linking.
Speaking of Slack, do you think it's worth having something which people are attending KubeCon from like the Helm community, maybe not communities wide, but like say if we want to work on a presentation or dates are coming up for organizing the presentation, do you think it's worth having a Slack channel to drop things in?
We can probably just start a
Basically,
direct message between
so
the group
I
who's
took
working
data
on that,
looking at
so
our
we can do
chart,
it.
and it
You
said,
can
like,
add people
this
to it now,
chart
so even if you
has
started,
followed.
you can
That's not
change
intentionally a
the
mistake, it's just
groups
that
now.
it will tend to.
And so we could probably just
cause
do a
killing
one-off
until
like
they
that
short
for
out
this.
and
Makes sense.
in certain scenarios.
Do you want me to start that since that's just it?
Sure.
Right.
All right. If there's nothing else, we can actually move on to the 4 topics we now have, which looks like they're pull requests or issues. So I think the first one here, Ian, did you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I just wanted to, so someone submitted this pull request, tagged a few of us, and I was just having a look at it, and it looks like it's pretty straightforward. They're just adding a bunch of, updating something to support risk V, one of our dependencies that didn't support it yet, and then adding a few lines to like our make files so that it actually generates risk V binaries. My first thought was, now what does that sign us up for as far as like supporting it? Like do we run CI on every architecture and things like that? It doesn't look like we do, unless I'm not seeing it. So
We don't run it on every architecture. It would fall into something like S390X. If you see, we do that, but we definitely don't do that. We've just had that request came through IBM, and we've just kind of gone that route. Trying to remember what our support strategy is. Essentially, on that environment, because none of us have the ability to reproduce it there. For example, S390X, it's a best effort.
so do we actually have that documented somewhere where we're like, these ones are best effort, and or even minimal effort, right? Like if it doesn't work, somebody's got to figure out. So somebody that cares has to give a pull request or something.
I am looking at that right now. And I do not see it. So that is one of those things we probably should document, is the Helm support policy for binaries.
So other than that, this pull request looks pretty, like it does what it's supposed to do. Although I don't really have any way to verify that it actually works. I guess I could, someone could actually go like run this in QEMU, but it looks pretty straightforward. It's like compile it for this. So
yeah, what we can do is assure it builds, but we can't ensure it runs because we don't have that environment. Same with S390X. Because Go has great cross compile support, we can actually test that the cross compiling works for that architecture.
Yep.
Linux in that architecture, we just can't ensure that it actually runs and functions. So I can go ahead and take a look at that one unless somebody else wants to do that cross compiling check. And we also need to make sure that our make commands work and all the cross compiling, GOCs, things like that continue to work. So we need to run through and actually ensure this happens.
it looks like they've updated this. PR basically adds all that to the make files, and
yeah, we just gotta,
so.
we want to make sure that it actually runs and functions and all that.
Yep.
Okay. But otherwise, this makes sense. I mean, it's along the same line, and we are now starting to see, risk cases. And if somebody actually is using it, are they actually using it? I want to make sure somebody's actually using it if we're going to do it. So, yeah. So they tested it in QEM, yeah. Okay. Okay. I can do that. I'm going to carve out some time the next day to work on Helm stuff. And if not, it'll bleed into next week and I will have time traveling to look at this. Okay. If there's nothing else, we can move on to the next one. Joe, do you want to introduce the next one?
Sure. So the issue, the PR with the most thumbs up right now is for output from hooks for jobs and pods. The idea being you could have a pre-install hook that could run to check something is valid in your cluster, and then potentially fail and tell you about it. But I've tested the PR and it works great. It does exactly what I wish we'd had a while ago.
Okay.
But there's a HIP preceding it that we'll need to get.
So a HIP needs for Helm core needs 2 maintainer approvals. Oh, it looks like you've approved it. So
Apparently, I'm not a
you approved it
maintainer.
all.
Apparently, I'm not a maintainer in community though.
You're not a maintainer in community, but the maintainers across all the repos are not a maintainer in community. So I can go review it as a second maintainer unless there's somebody else.
Okay.
This seems fairly straightforward. I'm already familiar with it.
Yeah, the only thing that the HIP calls out that the PR doesn't do, and actually I have a, I didn't want to bug that committer until I saw the HIP was approved, because I know he's getting a little agitated that it's taking so long. But the only thing that the HIP calls out that the PR doesn't do is the HIP calls out that it actually tells you where the output's coming from. So there's just a little statement before it actually prints the output where it's like, hey, this was the container that generated this, so that the user had some idea of where it was coming from.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. All right.
But I'm sure once the HIP is approved, I won't have any trouble getting the contributor to add it in.
Yes, but he's since we've actually started talking to him, he's become very responsive.
Yeah.
All right, great. I think we can move on to the next one here. 11726, Michael.
Hi, yeah, I've added 2 PRs here, so I guess both of these we've discussed before, and there was reviews done and comments given, but the comments have been addressed now, so it would be great. I just thinking that the next release is in 2 weeks' time, if I'm not mistaken. It would be great if it was possible to get these over the line in time for inclusion in the next release.
All right, I'll open them and I will take a look at them. And I think I am one of those people who looked at comments and then did not circle back, or at least on one of them.
That'd be great, thanks.
They're both medium size. Okay, one of them, needs 2 maintainers. The other one, Joe, approve the latest. Sorry, I'm looking at the new commits. So both of them need 2 reviewers.
Joe has looked at one of them, I think.
Yeah, but you push commit changes since then. So he needs to review it again real quick.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So Joe will need to relook at that one. Okay. So both of these need 2 reviewers. I'll be one of them to review it. I'm carving out time, hopefully today, to do some of that.
That's great. Thanks a million.
It's easy to do when I've still got all these tabs open and then come back to it.
I've just been assigning myself things I want to come back to, because otherwise I'm already in tab overload.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that addresses both of yours. And then Karina, you've got something?
Yeah, I was looking at CDKs just for their review. So I'm reviewing their sandbox in tag app delivery. But I was looking at their issues and they have a lot of Helm stuff for obvious reasons. Do you know anybody that's working on CDKs from the Helm side? Because I thought that it would be good to invite them to come to the Helm meeting. I see a lot of questions in their issues saying, does Helm do this? Does Helm do that? But I don't think I've ever seen them here. Okay. Thought I would ask. I mean, this is the audience to ask. Okay.
I've often thought it would be neat with CDKs if you could actually make Helm charts using CDKs somehow.
Well, that's what
Like-
they're supposed to kind of do, right? They create using it, you're supposed to be able to create a Helm chart.
Well, you can instantiate a Helm chart using it. I've actually thought it would be neat if you could like write a program in CDKs and run it via like compile it to a WASM module and then like ship it to that's been kind of like this idea I've been toying around with in my head, and I've actually like started to play around with it a little bit, like do some compiling and try to get some stuff to like work. But it's that's been an idea I've been kicking around. Is wouldn't that be neat?
Hey, if you try it, let us know.
The only name I've seen in this contributors list is Dependabot.
All right. Yeah, I mean it's AWS, but I was wondering if anybody was on the fringes. Okay. Might be interesting to look more into. Yeah. Ian, that'd be interesting to get your WASM ideas.
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
All right, I guess it's back to me in this QPS parameter proposal. So this one was actually someone had an issue or a couple days ago where they were trying to issue things, I think against a GKE cluster, we're hitting rate limit issues. And I said, do you want to make a PR? And they said, yes. And this is the PR for that, where they basically just are passing an extra parameter to the Kubernetes library to allow, I guess there's this QPS parameter that you can set that limits how quickly the library interacts with the API. So it looked like it. The only kind of thing I kind of reviewed the code real quick. I didn't know. So I feel like the help test says it's for cases where CRDs, and I feel like it's probably more generic than that. That it's not just for CRDs, but any Helm chart that has enough stuff that you start hitting query limits. So
Okay.
that was my only comment on it, but seemed like a pretty easy win on that one.
Okay, I'll go take a look at this one. This is interesting. I wonder if it should be expanded beyond this case, but I'm not entirely sure. Or if there's some other impact where it needs to be injected. I also think we probably need to expand the language, right? Like in the help variable, it says, set the QPS value. We should, for CRDs, well, if somebody comes in, they don't know what QPS means, they don't understand. We need to spell that out and then, share the acronym so people understand. And so some of the language at least needs to be cleared up around it, but I can make a comment on that, right? It needs to not just be insider baseball talk.
Yeah.
Okay. This makes sense.
Actually, it is called out in there. QPS.
But it's not in the help text.
Um,
Very specifically, I didn't think it was in the
32 var QPS queries per second rate limiting for Kubernetes API.
on the fly. Oh, yes, it is. Sorry. It's elsewhere in the root deco. It wasn't. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look through this. Make sure the language is good. And we probably need to not call out the Golang library. I don't think we specify our implementation to customers or to end users, because most end users of Helm aren't Go users. They don't know Golang or care of the language it's written in. Just like curl users don't care that it's written in C. Well, most of them.
Are you looking at Was there a docs PR associated with this? I didn't even see that there was a docs.
No,
PR
I'm
associated.
looking at the help text that they print when you run Helm help.
Environmental.
Use help against it.
Oh, he might have just updated it, so I might be looking at something.
Oh, it did just update. I see the refresh since I opened it moments ago.
No, I just updated it. I merged main into it because I noticed that there was a change that was unrelated.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, just the fact that it says library default. You're thinking probably
No, further down. I'm talking about in Environment Go. Is it Environment Go where it sets the flag
Line 150.
value?
Oh, okay.
156. I always read that user facing text that goes towards end users, or that is in package outputs that people might import and need to navigate when they're reading over on, reading the Go docs, things like that, just to see if it reads clearly.
Yeah,
So.
the text from the help probably was better if we remove the fact that it refers to CRDs, I think, because I don't think this is just useful for CRDs. I think it's anything where you're doing a bunch of queries, so I wouldn't want to mention necessarily CRDs specifically.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, no, this is another good one though. Okay, thanks. And that is it. So we've got 4 minutes and we've got a number of open positions. I know I will not be present next week, so I can't volunteer for anything. Do we have volunteers for moderator notes or anything else?
I'm also out next week.
I'll try to make next week. I can do either.
Looks like I'll be here. So
Somebody want to moderate or do notes?
I'll do moderate.
All right.
I'll do notes.
Thank you all.
Sorry, Karina, I'll never volunteer to do notes.
Well, Karina does such a better job than I do, and so does Karen. They both do a significantly better job than I do at notes.
I'm sure you'd do better than I do, so that's saying something.
I don't know. I'm bad. It's a problem. Okay. All right, folks. Well, we covered a bunch. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you all online.
Not really
That's
relevant.
it.
How'd you like that Dependabot?
It's new. It's new. The groupings in Dependabot.
Cool.
It is. I know some people who switched to RenovateBot just because it could do groupings, and then they'd run their own and things like that. So having Dependabot groupings is a nice feature. I've got a couple other places I'm going to use it now. I didn't even know they'd put it in.
Yeah, I just discovered it last week. So
That's great. Thanks for doing that.
Sure. Nice, yeah.
All right. See ya.